Hello everybody, the Nameless Narcissist here once again, a simple man diagnosed with NPD, trying to give you the facts on narcissistic personality disorder and things that go on in my head. If you like this video, please like, comment, and subscribe, but keep in mind, I am no clinician, I can only speak to my own experiences and the studies that I read. I always feel weird doing that intro when I'm talking about personality disorders as well that aren't narcissism, because I'm like, wow, that intro is super misleading. Whatever. So anyways, I was watching one of Hinzog's video. Okay, let me clarify. I love this guy and he makes great videos. I am plugging him not because he gave me a shout out in the last video. I don't want it to seem like I'm only saying his name right now because I feel an obligation. No, I fucking love the dude. He has really interesting content. Anyways, but he mentioned something that I thought was interesting that a lot of people need to hear. People that have personality disorders, that is. And it got me thinking about something like that at least. He mentioned how there are certain attributes of schizotypal personality disorder. He has schizotypal, by the way. I don't know if I mentioned that, and he makes content revolving around that. But that there's merits in some of the symptoms of it, right? And that got me thinking a lot, because I was like, I have always viewed myself as defective because of my disorder, as like a monster sometimes, and that's part of the disorder, right? Feeling like that about myself. It's not the disorder that makes me a monster, it's the disorder making me feel like I'm a monster, right? Unless, you're one of the particularly bad ones that isn't working on yourself and is doing bad things, and maybe they're a monster, right? But I think that really gets into something that I feel like a lot of people with personality disorders miss a lot, is that this isn't only a curse, right? There are things about all personality disorders that are arguably better than people who are quote unquote normal, if not, maybe I shouldn't use hierarchical thinking there, or at least different in a way that's interesting, right? It doesn't make us inherently bad to have a personality disorder. We were just never given the tools to be able to deal with it, right? Even if you had a narcissistic parent, they're probably not aware, they're probably not in treatment. How are you supposed to be functional in society if you don't have somebody knowing what you're going through, being like, all right, this is how you healthily apply your traits. This is how you actually function. This is why this is bad. This is why this is good, etc., etc. It's not the disorder itself. It's not the way that we're wired that's wrong. It's just we were never taught how to. And the people who are aware of these things and are actively going to treatment should be really proud of themselves for doing that. But the ones that are in treatment, who are working on themselves, and especially the ones that are in remission and healthy, your disorder isn't just a curse, isn't just a thing that makes you a monster, right? And it doesn't make you a monster, to clarify. I'm going to go back to Hinzog really quick for an example. You listen to his content, and some people here, especially the normal quote-unquote people without personality disorders, might be listening and be like, whoa, this guy is fucking on acid or something. This is crazy talk, right? But I feel like a lot of people, probably the vast majority, are not going to feel like that. I listen to his videos, and yes, the magical thinking is very evident. But I'm listening to him, and I'm like, this is almost like, I don't know, poetry in a way. He just thinks poetically in ways that are super interesting. And I think that's part of the beauty of personality disorders even existing, is the fact that there's other people for me to delve into their internal experience and be like, whoa, this is super interesting. This is how it's different than mine. I would never imagine somebody thought like this. And I feel these are portions of the disorders that are neglected so often. And again, this is for people who are actively in recovery and try and make themselves and the people around them happier. But another good example is people with borderline personality disorder, super in tune to people's emotions. They may, if they're not in treatment, they may not understand why exactly they're feeling like that, and they, project certain things. But that can make them very good, supportive people. Or, narcissists like myself, we're always we're very fixated on what you think of us, right? So when we're trying to figure out somebody else's intentions about or attitudes towards somebody else, we can pick up on that fucking fast, in my opinion. That might just be me trying to be grandiose about my disorder, right? Or people with histrionic. They are they're more artistic than the average person. People with OCPD, some of the hardest fucking workers that exist, the most organized people that exist. These are all disorders, right? But they're disorders because we don't know how to handle them. They're disorders because nobody taught us how to handle them. We're in a world that to us looks foreign. To us isn't how we were wired to act. We're in a world that does not make sense. Hinzog, actually, in his video that I also wrote down, is the world is ridiculous and it's our job to laugh at it, which I thought was fucking hilarious. And And hell, somebody with even paranoid personality disorder, I kind of shit talk them a little bit just because I have one really bad experience with somebody like that, and I don't want it to come off like that always. But he he was super paranoid about like everyone's intentions, right? And paranoia generally can be very maladaptive, and it typically is. But want to know where his paranoia was pretty fucking spot on? It was usually with me when I was unaware and I was very Machiavellian and like deceitful and fucking like self-serving. Usually when he'd be paranoid about me, he was right. There was a thing towards the end why our relationship ended or friendship ended that he was very, very wrong about, and it pissed me off so bad that I cut him out. But generally, he was fucking correct. That self-protectiveness of paranoia can also be a good thing. And I think that could apply to almost every trait, except for, in narcissism, like interpersonal exploitation. That's probably never going to be particularly good. But, and I haven't done a bunch of research on things like this. I know that, there's the reading of the mind's eye, where, borderlines actually can read emotions in people's eyes better than normal people can, which I think is fascinating. And, again, the artistic merits of having HPD. Honestly, I don't feel like there's enough research out there about the potential upsides of having a personality disorder. But I think that there are way more than people want to admit that they are, that people with our disorders want to admit there are, because this disorder has impeded most of our lives. It's made us incredibly unhappy. But now that we're in treatment, we shouldn't look at this as a ball and chain. We should look at it as, okay, I'm different. How can I be better than everybody? Fucking hierarchical thinking. How can I act in a way that I take these traits and I set myself up for success? I set other people around me up for success. I help other people. You can take my YouTube channel, for instance. Yeah, like I always say, part of my motivation is attention, is being validated. It's people telling me that I'm awesome and stuff like that. Only part of it, by the way. But that's me taking this trait and applying it in a way that's constructive, in a way that people actually benefit from it. I'm sure there's some people who are narcissistic who can, once they get over some of the shame-based stuff, can do really well in their jobs and in business and stuff like that. People with OCPD, they're already doing good at their jobs, even if they're untreated. They are known for their upward mobility in vocational settings because, well, they're wired to just work. And yeah, it can take away some of the aspects of their lives, right? And that's where the therapy comes in. But that's still a really fucking cool thing to have. It's a really good thing to have. I'm not sure if somebody with OCPD is there. Tell me if you enjoy being that productive, or is it more of a compulsion? Because I guess that might change my opinion on that specific example. There's a couple that I don't know enough about. Well, fucking cluster A's in general. I fucking think, excluding paranoid personality disorder just because I don't know enough about it, but at least schizoids and schizotypal, some of the most genuine and actually kind-hearted people I've met in my life, which I'm not sure if that's just confirmation bias, but I mean, genuineness is something I always has respected. And my one buddy who's schizoid wired, with people that he's close to, he is unashamedly himself. He is just him. He doesn't give a shit what anybody thinks, right? And I respect that so much about him. I wish I could be that genuine. Again, going back to Hinzog, you go back, you watch his videos, you're like, wow, this is the fucking nicest and most genuine person I've seen in my life. Sometimes it blows me away. He's just so positive about so much. And I think he perceives himself as pretty negative. And maybe it's just my bias, right? I'm oh man, somebody's not as negative as me. That means they're super negative. But to me, he just talks about people in such a kind and fair manner. And all of this isn't to say that people without personality disorders are not as good and stuff like that. No, of course, everybody has their own traits and abilities and stuff like that. But people with personality disorders, I think, need to hear this a little bit more just because, it's in the name, personality disorder. Our personality is flawed. And it's only a personality disorder. It's only flawed as long as you don't know how to fucking handle it, which most of us don't. But, hopefully as education increases and more people are, getting into treatment and stuff like that, then hell, maybe it wouldn't even have to be a disorder because hopefully early enough along, they'll learn the things they have to be able to succeed in life. Very optimistic of me. My channel is never this positive. What the fuck is happening? Somebody remind me to plug Hinzog, by the way. I always mention him and I always forget to link his channel. ADHD bullshit. I also want to point out that, like, something that Hinzog said that really fucking stuck with me, because I feel like this always, is he felt like a part of himself died. And I feel like a lot of people with personality disorders feel like that, right? Maybe that is, I wouldn't say it's based in truth, but maybe that's just because of, it's probably just because of the identity disturbance and because of how, like, you know, our personalities are rigid. We are very limited in how they can change and stuff like that. But at the same time, it's also like, I don't know, I want to reframe it in a way that's like, yeah, maybe, how do I put it? We didn't die, we were reborn, if that makes sense. Which doesn't sound that much better. But I don't know, there's a little bit more comfort in it for me, because it makes me feel like, because I feel fucking dead. I feel dead inside. It sounds so fucking edgy, but yeah, I feel like I died. I feel like I died and I was replaced by what I am right now. And I call that my defective rebirth. And, you know, like, and that sucks. And I think it's healthy for all of us to grieve who we could have been. Because, you know, this is going to take away from a lot of our lives. But that doesn't mean that we have to hate what we became, I suppose. I don't know, this was some hippie crap. This is not as positive as my channel usually is, whatever. Anyways, take your fucking meds, guys.